All right, so family. We're going to talk about family again, and we're going to talk about family again because I think family is a big deal, especially right now. You're spending lots of time with your family, probably a little bit more than you want to, right? No? Some of you guys love your family that much that you want to spend every waking moment. Got it. You guys are different. No one's laughing. Okay. All right. So family, it's the one thing that we all have in common, right? We all have some sort of semblance of family, whether our families look different than each other or not. For some of us, family means a parent and a few siblings. Some of us, it means two parents, no siblings. Some of us, it's parents, multiple siblings, more siblings than you can count. Others of us, it means mother or stepmother, father or stepfather. Maybe you have 4 half-brothers and a sister, or some combination of that. Or maybe it means you have 3 dogs and your dad's girlfriend and your dad in the house. Family is all something different for each one of us. It means something different for each one of us. Maybe you consider your best friends part of your family, like they're family to you, because you really know each other and know everything about them. And that's what your family is. So when we talk about family, it can look different for each one of us. And families can be the biological family that you live with your the biological parents that you maybe never met. It could be your extended family members. It can be the people who you aren't related to but are very close with. Family could be the foster family you live with or who adopted you. Or your chosen family, like your friend group, your small group, or the people that you hang out with most of the time. Family can mean a lot of different things. And no matter what your family looks like or has looked like or will look like in the future, we all come from and are part of a family of some kind, right? Right?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. And a family, like it or not, is ours. And you guys know my family pretty well. Most of you guys have met most of my family that lives here. Braylon and Becca. And I don't have a picture of hers because we're streaming online. But we have an adorable daughter, and my wife is just right here. So you guys know that, though. But I also have a family back in Tennessee. And it's my brother and my sister and my parents. My sister's getting married in December, and so I get to meet her fiance soon. And we all have different families. It's all crazy, right? You probably remember when you were growing up, maybe you grew up different than I did, where we played outside and we threw rocks at each other and played in the mud and made mud pies. And you guys are mostly different than me, I guess. But we played outside, and I remember multiple times, because me and my brother were daredevils, where we built different kinds of ramps so we could jump our bikes. And I don't know if I've told this story before, but one time we actually took a table, a 4-foot-tall table, and took 2 legs off of it and made that into a ramp. And that was not a great idea to where we put it. We put it at the bottom of a hill, and one of my friends rode his bike up it, and by the time it landed, the bike had completely shattered, and he hurt his leg. But we like to have fun, and I don't know about you, but that's the thing about family. They can sometimes drive you crazy, make you want to throw rocks at each other, make you mad at each other, but in the end, hopefully, you still come back and you still love each other, and you still at least tolerate each other while you're around them. They can be some of the most encouraging, most loving, and supporting people as well, though, right? They can be one end or the other, but you always will come back to loving and supporting them. And now here's the thing. I know that everyone likes being around their family, and that's because not everyone, likes being around their family, because family can be stressful, and they can not understand us sometimes, and we can just feel out of sorts sometimes with our family. But things don't always have to be complicated. But sometimes you add faith into the equation, and believe it or not, faith, what each one of us believes or doesn't believe, or can make things even more complicated for us and our fam, right? Right?
Right.
Yes. Whether you've been a Christian for a very long time or you've never accepted Christ, this Jesus thing could be new to you. Here's what I want you to know. Faith can create tension in your family. Faith can create tension in your family. Maybe you know it's true because your faith is really important to you, and there's people in your life that really kind of don't believe the same things as you. What you believe influences the way you live, and the way you live impacts your family. And that can be complicated because your step-parent maybe doesn't exactly believe exactly the same things as you. And you come to church, and you like church, and then you get home, and your step-parent just kind of doesn't believe anything at all the same. Or maybe there's a family member in your life or a friend who's like family that doesn't believe anything the same way you do. And simply put, they aren't Christians and you are, or maybe they are Christians, but they give you a hard time for taking your faith so seriously. And honestly, you're not sure if you're supposed to talk about your faith all the time with them because you feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about your faith with them. Or maybe for you, faith impacts your family in a different way because in your home, it's a mom or a foster parent and grandparent who's really into this Jesus stuff, and they love reading the Bible and going to church, and they think that you should love it too, but you aren't all that interested in it. You just kind of come and you're here because you're forced to be here. Maybe someone drove up, dropped you off, watched you walk all the way in to make sure that you actually got inside or got here, or maybe they told you had to go because you were in trouble and you didn't do your schoolwork and it was a punishment. And so it all just feels a little bit strange, and you're on two totally different pages from your family. Or maybe you aren't really sure about how your family and your faith mix. And maybe you're always, where you just said, maybe you've always just said that you actually believe what your parents told you to believe in, right? You've always believed in Jesus because your parents told you you believed in Jesus. And you're still told, but you're not entirely sure what you actually believe. Your parents believe, but you're not exactly sure what they believe, and you're trying to figure it out. But you're supposed to honor your parents, right? So you can't really talk about what you believe in. And as middle schoolers and high schoolers, you don't get a lot of choice in the matter of whether you go to the church sometimes or not, right? And because you can't talk to your family about what you may be questioning about, it's making things at home feel a little bit odd, different, weird, right? See what I mean? In one way or another, family can create tension in our faith. And our faith can create tension in our families, which is confusing, but we're also told that faith is somehow connected to our families. And it can make things better for our family, but that doesn't always feel like it's true. So how do we make sure that our faith is actually helping to make our families better? The good news is, I have an answer to that question from the Bible. And it's nowhere near my own answer. It's actually from the Bible, and it's a guy named John was told this by Jesus himself, and he wrote it all down for all of Jesus' followers, the Christ followers, to be able to read again someday. And before I tell you exactly what Jesus said, I want to explain a little bit about what was going on whenever he said this. At Jesus' last few days, he knew he was drawing to the end of his life, right? He knew everything was about to happen. Jesus knew what was about to happen. But his disciples didn't fully get what was about to happen. Jesus told them multiple times, hey, I'm going to go die. But, 3 days, again, the temple's going to be rebuilt. And they didn't understand that. He'd tell them, hey, I'm going to go die, but, I'm going to come back to life. And they didn't really understand it. And so Jesus is actually at what would be the last dinner they would all have together. And they're sitting around the table. There's 11 of them and Jesus, because they had already dismissed Judas. And they didn't really comprehend that this was going to be their last meal together. But sitting at a table, they were talking about life. They were just doing what they normally had done, because Jesus knew that some things were about to go away and be different. So at that dinner, he dropped some important knowledge on them. And this is what it says in John 13:35. It says, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Love is kind of a tricky word for us, but we're not going to entirely talk about this. What I want to talk about right now is that word disciples right there. Disciples actually means the people who follow Jesus. And Jesus was saying that the people will know of the people who follow him and believe in him by the way that they love each other. So, Jesus knew difficult times were coming for his disciples. He knew he was going to die, and then after he died, then they would be persecuted for their faith in him, for their faith in Jesus. They knew that they would literally be risking their lives for Jesus. They knew that people would look and be able to see exactly who Jesus was by looking at them. And that was their hopes. Yet, Jesus took this last opportunity to remind them that loving each other was the most important thing. That the most important thing was to love each other, because that'll be what people see in the long run. How they loved each other, and how their love for each other could make an impact on their faith. And you know what? The same can be true for our families. The same can be true for our families. If we want faith to do more than create tension in our own families, then and we want it to actually make an impact in our family lives and to make our lives better, then it's not about winning them to our own side, to our own faith journey. It's more about not convicting them and convincing each other what to believe. It's different. Because loving your family is how faith can make an impact. Loving your family is how faith can make an impact. Of course, this isn't easy, right? Sometimes it's not easy to love your family. Loving your family the way that Jesus tells us to can be really hard. It can be really hard for us. And a few years after Jesus said all these words, a guy named Paul, who was a disciple of Jesus, who later converted to be a disciple of Jesus, wrote some things down, and he explained what love is. And some of you guys know this. If you've ever been to a wedding, you've probably heard it there, because pastors, for some reason, like to misquote this. But Paul here is telling the Corinthians what love is and what would look like, and what it would look like if we loved other people. And it says this: love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love is. So when Jesus calls us to love one another, Jesus is calling us to love people in these different ways. And how many times have we been patient with our families? A lot of you are probably thinking about today, whenever you were driving over here, when you got done with school, and how you weren't patient with one of your siblings, or you weren't very kind to one of them. And Jesus calls us to love one another. And this is exactly what he's calling us to do. To love in this way. Especially with our families. Because that's how our faith and our families collide. Because of the love we show to one another. And you see, loving your family is how your faith can make an impact. And love is exactly where it starts. Love. So no matter what you believe about your family, or what your family believes about faith, when it's something that we can all do. We can all love our families. We can all try to love the people that are your family just a little bit more, right? Just try to be more patient with them this week, or try to be more kind to them this week, or try to not boast about them, or something like that. It could mean being patient with the adults in your house. But what does it look like for you to love your family? Patience. Don't be arrogant when you talk about your beliefs with your family. Maybe it doesn't mean, it means don't be jealous of something that your sibling has or that you don't have, or maybe it means that not being rude to your mom. Some of you guys may need to hear that again. Maybe it means to not be rude to your mom. Maybe not to be hot-tempered or quick to react to your dad. Maybe it means so many different things. Maybe we need to try that this week. This week from now until next Wednesday, to try and be more like what that verse says. And to help you not get overwhelmed, I want you to start by just picking one thing to do. To be more patient, kind, loving, whatever that is. There's many ways that Paul listed. Try just one way to be more loving to your family. Because honestly, love is what actually changes people. Love is what faith is all about. And even if it doesn't change them, it can change you from the inside out. Okay? Remember, you're loving your family is how faith can make an impact. So we're about to break into small groups, guys, girls, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I want you guys to think as you go into your groups, what's one way I can show my family love this week? Let's pray. God, thank you for loving us, and God, thank you for showing us what love is, and for Paul writing verses on what love is for us to be able to practice with our family. God, I pray that we can be more patient or kind or joyful or not be rude. And God, that we can be better examples of what our faith calls us to do this week. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. All right, so boys, you guys are going to go over that way, through and back to the